One of the things that's really important to know is that there are things that you do right up front and think about. How you're going to use your mosaic and where you're going to place it. That's going to drive a whole series of decisions right down the line. In this case, we originally were talking about having it as a tabletop. So we gauged the size of whatever we were going to do, our drawing initially, to the actual opening of the table. And when we were talking about it, since it was intended to be outside, and originally she was thinking about leaving it on the table flat during the winter, I said, anytime water is on a flat surface of concrete and you have things in there, over time the water will freeze and will start destroying the concrete and can pop your mosaic out or cause damage. That's just the fact of life. Freezing water will turn mountains into pebbles. It happens. So we started back and I said one of the ways we can do it is to take the tabletop off, because the storage of a table is a little bit of an aggravation. So take the tabletop off and we'll turn it into something that you can hang on the wall. Or you can put it in the garage, or you can make it as a display, as an art piece. And that's where you started thinking in terms of, maybe that's a better solution than the tabletop. So either which way, we went ahead and did that. We have, when it's going to be outside, you're limited to the type of substrate you can use. You can use, this is a piece of cement backer board, and cement backer board is something available at most hardware stores. It's really strong. It's actually easy to take and work with and manage, but it's concrete. So I haven't had as much personal experience with backer board in wet environments, because we are going to be leaving it outside, and I suspect it's going to be fine. But since it's against the back of a wall and it will be subject to freezing and thawing, I thought maybe we should do the Wedi board. This is called Wedi Board, W-E-D-I. Some places call it feather board. There's other things. This is used by contractors everywhere to do bathrooms, tiles. They make, there's way up high, I've got 2-inch wide Wedi board that you can use for constructions. You can build benches out of it, and it's very, very durable. It's got a foam core and a light, thin set layer of concrete on both sides. So I know that this will not absorb water, which is why I recommend that we use this for the project outside. So what we had to do is we cut a piece of Wedi board to the exact size, and then we had to center out the line, and I placed, these are washers. This is steel washers. They're galvanized steel, and I'm using hardware that is stainless steel because we're dealing with concrete, and concrete has an acid in it that regular steel over time, and definitely aluminum, would give problems. So this will make it very durable. The hanging system I have here, these are little washers that actually bite into the foam through the Wedi board, or through the concrete, and distribute the weight of the system around that. So by doing this particular construction of using, these are, you can see it there, it's actually a hanger, but by having that done, this weight of the whole project is spread out very evenly across those 4 points. And so I have absolutely no problem or concern about it being too heavy. But so when we're doing this, as soon as we fill it with mortar, we don't know what's going on. So we have put registration marks by tape onto this so that we know where our center line is. And I'm laying this down on the board, and we have also put registration marks on the original design. So we have again a copy of the round circle of the table, or the art piece, so we know where it's at, and we have laid this design on it at one point, so we know where the design registration marks will go. And we know that our board is centered correctly. So that is our first step. How you're going to use your project and where it's going to be located also drives the decision of what type of adhesive you're going to be using. Since if you were doing an indoor project, you could use concrete, you could use weld bond, you could use a lot of different kinds of adhesives to attach your pieces to your substrate. But in this case, it's going to be outdoors. And we're using basically porcelain and glass type of fixtures in the concrete. So there's a lot of different kinds of concrete. Seriously, there's like 50 kinds of concrete, and each one has its purpose. I'm using today Mappy, or I'm not sure how you say it, but these folks make a mosaic and glass tile mortar specifically for glass and porcelain that is also an outdoors capable. It's an exterior grade thin set concrete. And that will hold these pieces, which are very slick. So regular concrete might actually not be able to hold the glass. So I really like this. This is a fairly new product. It's definitely, they've got all kinds of advanced polymers inside it. They also do a polymer additive. If I put this polymer additive with this concrete, this, the mosaic glass and tile mortar, then this becomes something that can be submerged in water. So I'm going the next level of exterior. I'm doing one that should a shower just fall on there, immediately freeze, it's going to be sealed well enough that there's not going to be a problem. I'm the paranoid one. I always want to be sure that what we create is going to survive, and that is why we wanted this. I'm also, in this next step after that, we're going to be using, it's a Ultra Color Plus. This will be for the grout. Now this is a gray, silver gray that will be done, and I'm also going to be mixing it with this polymer additive so that now grout is not sticky. Grout fills in spaces to keep water from penetrating into the concrete and into your mosaic piece, and it also does a visual smoothing, ties everything together. So the grout function is not to make anything stick. So you have to understand that the concrete mortar makes the pieces stick, and the grout keeps water off of the piece. So it's kind of interesting how they both work together, and they both need to be super efficient. I have here a set of tools. I'm using an old power tool with a mixer on it, and I've got different sets of spreaders. I'm actually going to end up probably we'll use these just because this is a smaller piece and it's easy. We'll get that done. And I've got other tools here. This will be used to clean the grout when that's all ready. I have cups, buckets, and I have water. You want to have a lot of stuff. If we were doing an interior piece, we could use the pre-mixed stuff that they sell in all the hardware stores. And this is easy to use, it looks good, but it's definitely for interior use only. Okay, we're back again. I'm going to be putting the mask on, an N95 mask. As soon as I start opening and using this mortar, we'll have concrete powder, real fine particles in the air. And that is something that does not clear your lungs if you inhale it. So you will absolutely, the KN95's availability nowadays, you've got them, use them. All right. And I'm basically going to be mixing enough concrete to fill this, to do my space, and I am going to make it to peanut butter thickness. Oh, and I should be wearing gloves. And let me do that right now. The concrete has it's acidy and it can, over time, it'll, tear up your hands, definitely dry them out. If you get a little bit on you real quick, it's not the end of the world or anything like that, but work with gloves. But the mask is more important. The mask is, concrete doesn't forgive you on that. Probably going to make more than we need. I'd rather do that than not. I've got some here ready. Okay, I'm just pouring this into a cup so that it's easier to manage. And I may need more, so I'll have it ready in case I do. I suspect I won't need that much, but we'll find out. And I place this on the floor so that I can be in position to do this. And all right, now we've mixed the concrete and it's, you can see it's like peanut butter thickness, and we're gonna spread it over the surface. And we're discussing, I've made, which should be enough. If it isn't, then we will mix more. As long as concrete is moving, it will stay fresh. It's one of those things, you see those big concrete trucks rolling up the highway, and they keep those big barrels rolling. And as long as it's moving, it's working. All right. Before we don't put any more, let's go ahead and start spreading. So this is going to spread out. You're going to be sure it's in there. Okay. I'm going to do some edges real quickly. Use this. I'm going to be sure our registration marks are in. See, how's this on registration? That little right on. And it needs to move up here.
Oh, yeah.
So we're centered. Is it right? Still right?
Yep.
All right. What I'm doing is that this edge needs a little layer of thin set, and it's so thin, I'm just putting thin set right directly on it.
It's like icing a cake.
It's
isn't
like
it?
icing a cake. Do you need more icing?
Yes. And
Okay.
what about, are we concerned about air bubbles in here at all? Or?
Oh yeah, you want to take them. It'll get, at this point, I think you're using, I was using it flat like that to get it in there, but actually you end up putting a little less. This is
This
thicker,
edge.
believe it or not. Okay. And it's okay to be thicker. It just doesn't need to be. And if it's too thick, what it'll do is it'll come up inside the area where you want to have your grout. And you see the thin set, how thin that is on the Wedi Board.
Yeah.
That's all you actually need. It's just enough to do. With this, what we want is enough to come up and get the bottom edge of the glass pieces.
My hanging hardware is now encapsulated in this, which makes it very strong, and I have great confidence it's going to stay on the wall. See, there it is right there. Yes, I'm hitting it a little bit.
Yeah. If we don't have enough concrete or we run out before we can always mix up a small batch and put it on top. Because
Okay.
concrete will stick to concrete. It definitely is not a problem.
Concrete loves concrete.
Concrete loves it. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to be moving this in sections over to here. And because we've got concrete on here, we got one shot at it. And so we're going to be sure that we get it done as best we can. We've got our registration marks. We know where we need to put them, and things can change. So you may see some excitement occasionally as oh no happens. But one of the things that we found was that this mesh can stretch. So you have to be careful. We have cut it into sections that logically flow. I'm ready. You want to do this. And we're registering this, see, this number 1 goes to the center. Doesn't? No, it doesn't. Number 1 goes to number 1. It's 1-0 here. Let's lay this down right at the edge. And it's right close to the center. There's the center. Is there? Perfect. Okay. 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 All right. Now, that was number 1.
And this is center line to number 2.
Here's number 2. Here's center line.
This stiffened up a little bit, I
Yes.
think, from yesterday.
And what we did is we put,
Center line,
the center line is here.
and number 2 is right,
It was stretching.
yeah.
Okay? Be sure that, watch the outside edge is the edge I would use to gauge on the stretch. Okay? What we did with this, we did a dry run yesterday to be sure that we were getting this right. And you see how here we've overlapped. So we've got, no,
You can't pull it off.
no.
Okay,
You
okay.
readjust your buttons.
Okay,
We're gonna cut that piece
did you
off.
get that? Did you get that? Readjust your buttons.
Yes, and that's what happens, and that's why I'm saying, you
We'll
never,
have to cut that.
yeah. You can do it,
Readjust your buttons if necessary.
yeah. Pair of scissors, wanna do it now? Just do it.
Yeah.
You know, and see, there's a little bit of a curve. Yeah, there is curve there too. All right, you ready for this guy? We're gonna go A to A. I want to be sure A is seen. A is hidden here. Here, come here, baby. And there's the line.
Okay, this piece is lying right on my cut line, so this is gonna have to be placed after removed.
All right, okay. These are, okay, we're moving this.
We're moving.
Okay, keep her up until we got her situated. This A point here, I'm laying it down, tweak it
We
here.
need to move that button.
No, wait, fine, it's gonna be fine, because it's right there. All right, how's it doing here? This is laying under, that's laying under, that's right, it's right, we did it. Exact, perfecto. Yay!
Okay, so should I lay this piece back in
Yeah,
here?
well, yeah. Well, I think we're gonna, yeah, go ahead. Well,
Or-
no, wait, let's put the other piece in there.
Okay, I'm just gonna lay it here on top
So
so
you know
I
where it's at.
remember where it needs to go. Okay,
Okay. Now you're gonna be doing the registration. See that line?
Yeah.
B is gonna line up here and
Okay.
put your buttons, and look, the buttons are the ones that you be sure they're on the edge. That'll be your other point of registration, all right? it. Yes.
Okay, you line it up.
Well, some of these pieces are large, and in addition to being large, these two large pieces are actually have a little indent here because we kept the foot of the plate on there. So in order to be sure that we've got good adhesion, B had acid etching form stuff that she put on the back of these two pieces as an extra insurance that we have enough grip from the concrete onto the piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some mud, concrete, onto this piece to be sure we have that gap filled up so that the concrete has something, that it's continuous all the way through. Otherwise, there'd be a big air hole, which we definitely don't want. And so, he's going to do the honors of placing the major piece in. Little birds. Yes.
All right. I think we're straight.
Okay. And we're going to do the same thing to this piece.
Okay.
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, she's starting to stiffen up. We're going to go ahead and press in the mesh. Feel the difference of how this stuff is getting thicker, feeling more peanut buttery. How's that for space? It's got plenty of space. Make sure it's down enough. Go ahead and remember to place that in. I'm going to put another pair of gloves. Where are the gloves? Okay, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to keep my hands clean, and I kind of like to have powder gloves. I couldn't find any there because people are allergic to it, but because what happens is if you're working in there, your hands can get kind of sticky. So we have talc powder on here that we put because when we put the tiles onto the mesh, the sticky mesh, we found that it was really pretty sticky on both sides. So we put a little talc on it so that we'd be able to pick it up and move it. And that reduced the amount of stretching because that was the first thing we found out. I've used this brand before and other versions of it are sticky only on one side. This one is a little bit tacky on both sides. Good and bad about everything. But let's go ahead and press this stuff in.
I think it looks pretty good,
Yeah.
but we still have to put in all these
buttons.
buttons.
Right. This is really, this would have worked out super well for a tabletop. This actually is. I mean, the longer pieces would have to
Yeah.
been cut, but you did a great job.
Well, thank you. We'll have a champagne toast when I hang it on the wall.
Hey, really? Okay. And what we're doing is we're putting and being sure that each plate piece of this mosaic is set into the concrete. And because it's a fast acting thin set, which is really great, but it also means you work fast. So it is something that we're doing. We've got little pieces that we're going to be putting in, and some of the pieces that go up, we do want to take and put a little extra concrete mix around it so that it's real stable. And we're going to make a little bitty batch up and just come back in and do these little extras. It's not a problem. So you don't have to do everything. You need to get most of it done, but you don't have to have every single thing done. We've got a nice lay of the tile. Everything is looking good. Right now is the only time that anything will move. So, we have to do it in a hurry, and in just a minute or two, then we're going to go through, like I'm going to hand make up in a little cup. We're not talking big amount, a little cup of mortar, just in case it's needed. Right now, everything is wet, and G and B will take care of all the pieces. Sound like a plan?
Yep.
Okay.
So I have my Ghislain, my art partner, helping me do the final touches. Is this the first time you've done mosaic?
Yeah, it is. Never done this before.
Okay. What do you think?
I'm excited.
Are you?
Yes. Don't want to mess up though.
Well, you don't worry. Someday you'll inherit this. So you'll say, I messed up right there when you're my age. Okay. So, and meanwhile, while you're doing that, and just leave a little room in between them because they need to have enough room for grout in there.
What should we do right here?
Just if it'll fit in there.
It'll fit pretty snug.
Okay. Then we might want to put a half moon in there.
Got it.
Okay. And I'm going to cut some blue to go into here.
Awesome.
Okay, and I'll cut you a couple half moons to fit in there.
Okay.
Okay, how are we doing? Good.
Perfect.
See, we're going to keep that gray color down in this area because that's like the land color, and then this blue-gray is the sky color. And the sky is not totally over the entire half of the piece. And that's called artistic license. You ever heard that word before?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got some of my mortar coming up on top of my tile, my buttons. How am I going to get that cleaned off?
Okay. If this were unglazed clay or some other kind of product, I would be more concerned. But with this glazed and glass type of tile, it really comes off very easily. As soon as you do it, you will take as soon as it's dry enough to handle, you can just go ahead and use a little scraper and it'll come off.
Okay.
Okay, and when, but if it's unglazed, the concrete will get into those little crevices. So that's one of the same reason that you put the acid etching compound on the back of this plate. It's like on the back of that plate, you wouldn't get it off, and that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
So, of doing this. This is a little batch of concrete in case we need it. There's a couple ways of doing things, and you can put things into plastic bags, cut off the edge, and use it as a piper. And I hadn't thought we were going to need that, so I'm looking around for plastic bags.
Okay, how are we looking?
Now G is pulling the tape off. She's holding the pieces down as she gently pulls the tape off. And you see that it is the least sticky of the tapes. And that way it doesn't disturb the bond of the concrete to the mosaic piece before it's cured. And what I'm doing now is I am putting in the concrete into a little bag, which I am going to cut the end off and treat this so that we can put little pieces or little amounts of concrete in little spaces. Where do you need it?
One in there. Around that. And then in here.
Well, it'll hold in this bag because of the way it is, and we can keep moving. As long as we keep the concrete moving, it won't go bad,
Yeah,
won't
now,
get
you see
stiff.
how-
This piece here is sitting up,
Could be a piece
and
of
I'm trying
wood.
to fill under it to put concrete underneath. It'll support it, it make better adhesion, and it'll also keep water out of it. Again, water is our enemy
Yes,
when it
we can
freezes.
do it.
So
Fix
that
and
is
we'll do a half
there,
moon on either side.
and
I'll cut it.
put more on this end too. So it's hard to see, but it is working. And that'll hold them in better, make the piece stronger, and more water resistant.
So that. And then this one.
Right now, I'm going on the larger pieces of these older plates. As a general rule, I'm not worried about the concrete causing a problem on the glazed pieces, but these are really old, and I don't want to have any risk with it, so I'm just on the very big pieces, or on anything that we see that it's got on, I'm just doing a light check to be sure that any concrete is not inadvertently left, because it's just little edgy things, and it's easy to come off now, and it's a little more challenging later. It's still doable. Like I'm not worried about it on the regular tile buttons, but on this, I want to be sure it's good. We don't want to take any risk with some of this very old porcelain. This is just a paper towel with a little bit of water, very light damp. No, I don't want to put any real water on here because we don't want it getting into the concrete and changing anything. Very lightly damp, and it's coming right off. There are things that are so fine that you can't even see. You can feel more than anything else. But I just, a little bit of care now saves worry later.
The interesting thing about the blue willow that I used, I think I said earlier that it's many different manufacturers from different periods of time. And some of it's really old, and you see that with the color on the back side. And some pieces are thinner, some have aged, they have their own patina, and I use that to create my shadow on my tree trunk here. I use that to my advantage. At first I thought, oh, it's not all going to be the same blue willow color, but it really benefits the design by giving more depth. You can see where this one is really white, and that enabled me to use that for the main part of the trunk. And then some of the pieces I had are cracked in terrible places, and I could have cut this away and used this border, but I was trying to save the centers as many as I could early in my design because I wasn't sure how many I would want to use. I ended up using only 2. I think it's plenty. And then I used 3 of my saucers, the centers of the saucers. And I went through about 6 of these saucers before I got a clean cut because they cracked in half. In fact, this one, I'm missing about 1/3 of it, and I thought I can use that, but I didn't want any more like that. So if you're going to do a what we call this peak assiette mosaic, broken plates, then make sure you have enough inventory for your project. I still have plates left over, and they'll probably just go in the china cabinet, and I won't do any more with them. And then Ghislain one day can sell them in the flea market or sell them on eBay. And maybe they'll be worth more in the future than they are right now. But they're worth a whole lot to me right now.
It's pretty much finished right now for today. We're doing a couple little tweaks here and there, clean up, but we're going to wait 24 hours for the concrete to cure, and then we will grout it. And so tomorrow we'll be back.
Are you gonna be here with me tomorrow, partner?
I think I am.